Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. It is Christmas time, and you remember last year I did a special gift for my son who's in New Zealand, and I made a figure of him. Well, I'm gonna do something similar today and next week, but we're gonna do 3 figures each week. So 3 today and 3 next week. And what we're doing is we're taking all of this crap right here that I got from Salt Lake Comic Con from FanX a couple of months ago, and we are gonna do figures for my best friends, whom I have been friends with since high school, so you can do the math, it's been a long time, of their D&D figures. So we play D&D once a month, and I'm the DM. And what we're gonna be doing is we're going to take this Hawkman, we're gonna turn him into an Aarakocra named Dresnik, and we're gonna take this guy, and we're gonna make them into dwarves for Zalord and for Swifty. The head I'm using for this first dwarf is the extra Man-at-Arms head when I bought that Man-at-Arms figure. And then for the other one, it's gonna be a Punisher head. So we're gonna use Milliput, and we're going to create some beards for these guys. And we're gonna take this Green Lantern armor, we're gonna spray paint this and do all kinds of fun stuff. So this is gonna be really a unique adventure for us this week and next week. First off, we're gonna do some Milliput on this guy right here. We're gonna make it so that he's got more of a beak, and we're gonna remove these ears because I hate these things. They're so big. You guys remember on the Hawkman that I did, I actually cut them off and did something different, and I liked that a great deal. But that's our first thing. Then we are going to trim down these guys. So these are just wrestling bodies that I had that were just left over from other figures that I'd got in their heads. So we're gonna trim down these guys' legs and their arms and make it so they look more dwarfish, right? And again, I haven't done any of this before. This is all new techniques. So hopefully this is all going to work. I can't guarantee one way or the other, but we're gonna have some fun in going through all of this stuff. Now we're gonna Milliput around these guys as well and just add some extra stuff to make them look a little bit more dwarvish. And I'm gonna experiment. So I'm gonna put the Milliput here for the beards, and we're going to try and weave them. I want them to look pretty cool. You know, I want them to have some good details. So we're gonna glue the Milliput on and form these things, and I think that it's gonna work. We'll find out when it dries.
Now they got them cut down and the Milliput's in place, I'm just going through and painting this guy, covering up the white so that when the armor goes on, he's got kind of a, you know, a leather layer. I think that's gonna look much better than the white. Now that we got the beard and the hair all in place and painted, we're gonna take some more Milliput and we're gonna make helms for these 2 dwarves. And so I'm just gonna kind of put them on there and mold them and get them so that they look, you know, good.
We're just gonna do some accessories here with this old Superman chain to these dwarves. Not bad. That'll look good as a kind of chain loincloth. Random pieces are the greatest. You can use them for all kinds of stuff, and it's awesome. Just gonna go through and silver up some of these spots that I've added, just for texture here with the fabric paint. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through and we're gonna bronze this guy. We're gonna use my brown wash that I don't use very often, and we are going to make this guy more of a bronze than a silver. All right, we're moving on to Zalord here. I'm going to use some gunmetal gray and dust over all of this. I should probably take his head off, huh? Yeah, that'll make things easier. And I'm just going to dust over all of it. And then we'll kind of do the same thing we did on the other one. We're going to bronze him a little bit, but he's got to get some better silvery texture on this before we do all of that stuff. And this will be our first thing. Then we'll lighten him up with a little bit of the lighter silver and call it good. Moving on to this guy's helm, and we're going to start with the darker. I could go with black, but I don't want to. I'm going to do the gunmetal gray and then the silver and then bronze it up and then add details from there depending on how I want it to look. Head number 2, same deal, just with silver. It's nice when you're doing stuff like this where I'm doing 2 dwarves, you know, making them unique. Sometimes it just comes down to color. Like you're painting a couple of different D&D figures. Paint one lighter and one darker, and they're going to be completely different characters. So Dresnik Swiftwing, he has brown, dark brown, and white. So the head goes back to these feathers and is brown. So we're just going to go in with the brown. We're going to paint the eyes too, because we will fix those later. And then we will do the white. And then we will do the wings. It's all going to be the same deal. This guy's going to look awesome. Let's orange up this guy's feet. Give him some good bird goodness, just like he looks on the miniature. And do the same thing with his beak. Might add a little bit of gold in here or something, maybe a dry brush. We'll see. Using a very tight lens on this one, and so if I move even a little bit, he go out of focus. Gives it a really great look, but it's also a pain in the butt when I'm holding it in my hand. And while we got the orange out, Zalord is a redhead, or Stephen, his owner, is a redhead. So I'm going to make Zalord a redhead. I think that's fun. What I decided to do with this guy, I don't like how his chest just looks haphazard. So what I'm going to do is take this red wing from a Sam Wilson Captain America, and we're going to glue it right here and paint it. This is a really cool tip because you can take things from your extra box, and if they're out of context, no one will ever know that they didn't belong with the figure. So don't be afraid to do that sort of stuff. No one will look at this and go, oh, it's Red Wing. We'll paint it, and it will just add some cool texture to this guy. So don't be afraid to do that. Experiment, play around, have some fun. So you can see I took the rest of his original feathers and I glued them to his head so that he would just have more of a bird look. And now we're just painting them white. And I think that these turned out pretty good. So when going through here, just remember, you've got all these extra parts. And when you're doing D&D figures, you know, those little details are going to go a long way. So now he looks more Aarakocra-like. Real quick, I'm just doing some detail work on the head and around the body. And then this guy is going to be just about done, I think. Dresnik is probably, I want to say the easiest one, but you know, he's not as difficult as some of the others are going to be, which is surprising because we had to basically create his head from scratch. Before we go through with the final touch up on paint, I'd need to darken this guy up. I should have done it from the beginning, but I didn't, and now it's time to do it. So I'm just taking my Vallejo wash and we're going over this guy in full. And then we'll do our last highlight coats of paint before Dresnik is finished. Now that he's nice and dark, we're just going to go with a little bit lighter, but we're just going to hit some of these areas. I'm not going to go over in anything big, not even going to dry brush it. I'm going to hit some of these spots that look more feathery, and that's what's going to add the lighter sections. And I'm going to do that all over. I'm going to hit these areas that I added with the fabric paint. It's like they're catching the light, and I'll leave the rest of it dark. I think that's what this guy's missing, is just that bit of texture. And we'll do the same thing with the white, and then Dresnik will be done. A lot of these guys have little pieces of fabric and cloth on them, so I'm just going to use this extra cape that I've had for a really long time. And we're going to cut it into pieces, and we're just going to start using it, gluing it into place. And yeah, that'll work. See, we got these in place, and now Zalord's loincloth is blue. So we're just going to go through and paint it blue. Now that he's all locked in place, we added a little bit more hair and some stuff to his helm so that he can look like the figure. And now with Flagnard here, we're going to paint these robes gray, because he doesn't have any red, he just has gray that kind of hangs down. Now again, I'm basing these as closely as possible off of the minifigures that my friends have made, because they say that that's pretty much what they wanted them to look like, and so I'm trying to get as close as possible. And so far, I'm able to, it's working. This has just become a super fun mishmashing of parts. Like these pauldrons are off of General Zod. I mean, this is awesome. I'm just gluing stuff in place, and now I'm trying to match things, giving stuff a texture, that's all. Just painting the beard in these extra spots, and then we'll go over in gold because his helm is fully gold. I just remembered, or learned actually. And so just do this quick stuff, let it dry, and then Zalord is going to be just about done, I think. He's looking great. This is the Shimmer Smash of Unmissing, and as you can see, I sanded down some of these edges like in here so that it would not look like Mjolnir, because it obviously is Mjolnir. And it's going to be gold, so that will change the look as well. But now it's got some divots, so it looks a little bit more like a dwarf hammer. All right, we're done with these three guys. I think they've turned out great. It's fun working on characters like this. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at each of them individually. So here is Dresnik Swiftwing. You can see I basically redid the entire head with Milliput, which is exciting to me because it's going to allow me to do some other things. I did the same thing with his feet. And then he was just the simplest of all of them. Repaint, I added some feathers in here with some fabric paint and did some stuff, but I think he looks really good. Then we've got Zalord with the Shimmer Smash of Unmissing, which was a Thor hammer. And he looks really great. Originally, this guy was going to be Flagnard, and the other one was going to be Swifty. But as I looked closer at their details from the minifigures and from the pictures that they showed me when I asked them what they looked like, this guy ended up looking really close to Zalord, so he got switched, and the other one looked more like Swifty. Speaking of Flagnard, here he is. I was able to add these shoulder pads from Azad from next week, which will be turned into a ranger. He's got Brutus Cleavicus here, his weapon, and he's got his dragon scale armor. This guy had bare arms in all of his images, so he turned out perfect. So there you go. Don't be afraid to do this with your figures. If you're a part of a D&D group or any other number of game groups, you can do this sort of stuff and give them as gifts. And it's a lot of fun. It pushes you in different directions, and I absolutely enjoyed this a great deal. So thank you guys for watching. We'll have 3 more next week, and the week after I'll tell you, how it all went when they opened up their presents for Christmas. So I'm Stephen Human, Superhuman Creative. And remember, if you guys like books, if you're sci-fi thriller fans, check out StephenHuman.com. That's me. I'll see you guys next week.